And I will start sharing my screen. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're on the right place. I know we are, but session 1, Small Business Essentials, September cohort. So happy to have you. Just want to pull my chat up. All right. So I already kind of went through this, but session 1 agenda, intros, overview, and some basics, foundational knowledge of business and the role of a business plan. We'll talk a little bit about business ethics and social responsibility. That one I always kind of say, like, you can get a degree in this in business ethics. So we'll talk about it for 15-20 minutes, but excited to give you some of the big picture ideas. But yeah, before I dive into a bunch of me talking, I would love to hear from each of you, just so you know, we're not in a room with a bunch of strangers. So I will introduce myself a little more thoroughly, and then I'm just going to go down my list here and call you out. If you can't come off of mute or aren't comfortable sharing out loud, please feel free to put it in the chat as well. But so about me, my name is Becky. I use she, they pronouns. So those are the words that you can use to refer to me if you're not familiar with that. So you can say she's the best or they're the best. Both work for me. A brief description of my business. Like I mentioned, I run Beck's Books with my partner. It's a small used pop-up and online bookshop centering and celebrating marginalized voices. That's my little like elevator pitch spiel, which we'll also talk more about tonight. And something I enjoy doing when I'm not working on my business, which feels like is every waking minute. I like collage. I do collage art, not super well or professionally, but it's something I enjoy. It keeps my hands busy. So I'm just going to move through my list. And first on my list is Noah. But Noah, I know you were having some tech issues. Are you able to share?
I am, yes.
Yes, cool. You and Terry can both go. So whoever wants to go first.
Sweet. My name is Noah. Um, I'm 20. Um, my business plan is to get into cannabis dispensary. Um, that's really, I go by he, him.
Well,
That's really it.
what do you enjoy doing when you're not working on the business, Noah?
I enjoy being outside and
Cool.
definitely spending time with friends and family.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah.
Terry?
My name is Terry Nelson. I am Noah's mom. So we are trying to um, have a family business in the cannabis business. We would like to eventually open up 3 stores, do event planning, transportation, delivery. Um, maybe farther down the road, we'd like to actually do a couple of acres of growing our own. We would hire a team to do that. This has been in the working for about a year now. And I am going to tell you, I have not really done much research lately. A lot has gone on, as you know, Becky. I've had to change a couple times of our cohort with moving and
Mhm.
different things like that. So I got to kind of play catch up a little bit there, but yeah, so we're trying to make it a family business, and this is where we're hoping to complete or come up with a good rough draft of a business plan to present moving forward. As some people may have heard, the cannabis industry is set to open and start taking applications in the beginning of 2025, and
Mhm.
so that is what I'm hoping to accomplish, is something that I can start and then my kids can continue after I'm gone. I have children from the ages of 25 to 15. So
So
yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Terry and Noah. I
Yeah.
love a family-owned business. I've worked for them. Like I said, I run mine with my partner. I love it. Next on my list is Sheng. Sheng, are you able to come off mute and share a little bit about yourself and your business? All right, no worries. If you want to pop it in the chat or shout it out. Oh, Sheng, yeah, I see your note. Feel free to put it in the chat and I can read it out loud. Next on my list is, oh, I missed Shalon. I went right past Shalon. Whenever you're ready, Shalon, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Shalon. My business idea is a personal grocery shopping and pantry restocking service that will serve individual households and support group homes and community houses as well. And I just really enjoy just enjoying nature, and I like reading and just really spending time with friends and my husband and traveling when I can.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So stoked about your idea and to see how you develop it over the next couple weeks, Shalon. Oh, great. And Stacy is last on my list.
Hi, my name is Stacy, she, her, and I'm interested in opening up a indoor dog park. And then stuff I enjoy, I would say nature and my phone.
Relatable. Stacy, do you have any location ideas for your dog park?
Yes, I have been looking at some facilities in Shakopee
Okay, cool.
and in Bloomington.
Okay. So South Metro, kind of.
Yeah.
Awesome. I ask because I know of one, you probably do too through your research, in Minneapolis, like by the farmers market. I can't remember what it's called. But it's an indoor dog park and you're not near them. So if you're looking for an owner to maybe do an informational interview with, they would be a great one. I can dig up the name for you if you're interested.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What
Cool.
do you know what the name of the facility is?
I'm totally spacing on it. I know it's
Okay.
right next to the Minneapolis Farmers Market, like South
Okay.
Minneapolis, but I will dig that up and send it your way.
Okay.
Just gonna make a note of that. I'm also just making notes of all of your businesses. Cool. Cool. I'm a big fan of the informational interview, so you'll hear me say that probably a lot if I think of businesses that are similar to yours. It's how I learn so much about my business, so I will always tell people to meet with as many people as you can in this pre-launch phase. Also, Sheng shared in the chat, I'm thinking about opening a food shop, and she enjoys spending time with the family during her free time. Thanks so much, Sheng. Sorry your audio is not working.
Oh, I have a question
Oh,
about.
Stacey, please.
So I have been wanting to do informational interviews, but I wasn't sure if because they're like competitors, like how open they would be to providing me with that information.
Yeah, so my experience has been that as I haven't reached out to anyone who does the same exact thing as me in the same area as me. But I have found that reaching out to folks who are doing similar things in an area that I wouldn't consider competition. So like them being the dog park I mentioned being in South Minneapolis, like pretty close to downtown, and you being out in the burbs, I wouldn't consider that direct competition. And I would feel comfortable reaching out to them for an informational interview. But I mean, it's just like vibes, right? So if you're like, I feel like I might be stepping on their toes, if you're looking at a very similar physical region or it's like the exact same business idea, I totally get why that might be like uncomfortable for both of you. But I have found that like if there's some overlap, folks are really comfortable talking about their business. That's a really good question. All right. My first little bit here. Oh, I am recording. My first little bit here is just kind of talking about who Women Venture is, what we do. And then I'll get into kind of the structure and policies and procedures of this class. So if you're not familiar, Women Venture is a nonprofit. People get confused. We are a nonprofit, but we help for-profit businesses. Occasionally we'll assist nonprofit businesses, but there are other organizations that have way more resources for that than we do. We do focus on for-profit businesses. We were founded in 1978 under a different name, but for the last 45-ish years have been helping women enter the workforce and build sustainable, profitable businesses. We do that through training, lending, and also policy advocacy. So our vision is a world where women-owned businesses are the economic engine that powers our world. And it's not just like something nice to say. Women-owned businesses are, they take better care of their employees. Studies show they give back to their communities much more, and they also fare better during economic lulls than male-owned businesses. So there are a lot of reasons to invest in and support women-owned businesses. I just kind of went over this, but the three big ways that we support small businesses: training, so cohort style courses like this. We also have one-off events and networking opportunities. The best way to keep in the loop on that is to subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on social media. We also do lending. We'll speak more to that in sessions 3 and 5. We also can serve as a resource navigator because we have been around for so long and we have connections with so many other organizations and nonprofits and business support partners. If you are looking for something and we don't offer it, chances are we have a referral or another organization that we can send you to. So don't hesitate to reach out, even if it doesn't fall in our niche. And then, okay, that's a little bit about Women Venture. Now, some kind of procedures as you move through the next 5 weeks. So I do ask that you have class materials on hand and ready to use. That might be the PDF that I shared out. If you asked for or printed your own workbook, that's what will be in most of the time. If you ever forget it or are having trouble accessing it, you can just jot down notes on a notepad or whatever you've got. Generally, the workbook just has space for you to write. Sometimes it has like templates that you will want to be able to see and use in class. We'll do at least one break throughout each session. 2 hours is a long time, especially this early in the morning. You might need to go refill your coffee or let the dog out. So we'll do like a 5-minute break kind of halfway through. We do ask that you use gender neutral language when referring to our staff or peers. We don't assume gender in this house. So, and not everyone on our staff identifies as women. So you can say folks instead of ladies. We love folks, we love friends. And then do shoot us an email if you know that you're going to be absent. Things come up last minute, don't stress about it, but it does help us keep track of who's in the room and who isn't. Be prepared to participate. Again, please participate in the way that makes the most sense for you. If you're participating by just being a sponge and listening to what everyone else has to say, that's cool. That's how some brains work. If you participate and get the most out of a class like this by shouting things out and sharing and asking questions, please do that, whatever works for you. We also will utilize small groups, and I'll talk more about that near the end. But if you have any like questions or concerns about that, shoot me a DM and we can chat through your options. And then do give yourself room to absorb. You're going to receive so much information over the next 5 weeks. So don't feel like you have to know all the things and do all the things right as soon as you learn it. You don't need to take notes because we record all the sessions and post all of the slides on Talent LMS. and there aren't any tests. We love it. We love post-grad. But just remember that as you are receiving this information, you're setting up a foundation for yourself to maybe refer to later. You don't have to do all the things right now, but you're learning and it's in the back of your head now, and you can move forward with that knowledge when it makes sense for you, right? The workbook, we love the workbook. Like I said, that's kind of our foundational like text here in class. It's got notes, examples, exercises. It has a glossary of words that we'll use throughout the cohort. And it's also just got a bunch of cool links and outside resources for you to refer to. You'll see a lightning bolt in your workbook that will signify that exercise relates to the lightning talk that you'll give in session 5. I will talk more about that. And then as we move through the sides, if you see this cute little glowing book, that signifies that there is an exercise in your workbook that corresponds with what we're talking about. Oh, right. And then we have developed some example businesses. We, through like adult learning and educating ourselves as a staff on how adult learning differs from childhood learning, examples, real life examples, created examples are so useful because you can see why it's important and how you might apply it to your own business. So we've developed 3 examples that are all different. Form is a product-based business. Impact Creative Agency is a service-based business, and Home Wellness Provisions is an e-commerce business, so a fully online selling things online business. So hopefully your business idea kind of falls into one of these 3, so you can move through the workbook and see examples of what that might look like in practice. If you have questions about which one makes sense for your business, feel free to let me know. But I will define product versus service today in class, if that's not language you're familiar with. And then Talent LMS. So you should have received a couple emails from Talent LMS with your login. If you didn't, do check your spam because those no reply emails sometimes do end up in spam. This is where we store everything. So your workbook, if you ever like misplace it, is on there. We upload all of the course slides on there, all of the recordings. So everything you need is in one nice little spot. You can download directly from Talent LMS. And we don't use it to track any kind of progress. You'll see that as you click through things on Talent LMS. We really just use it as like a drive to store everything. But let me know if you have any questions getting logged in if you haven't tried yet. It is a really useful resource to revisit things. So do utilize it, and you'll have access to it for forever. So you can always come back to recordings and slides as you need. And then a little bit about the graduation requirements. If you come to 4 of the 5 sessions and present your lightning talk at session 5, you will receive a certificate of completion, and you will have access to 3 expert advisor sessions. So those are one-on-one 60 to 90-minute meetings with an expert in a field that you have selected as needing more support in. Probably one of the best benefits of this course, outside of just the learning that you're doing over the next 5 weeks. You could be paying like $100 an hour for marketing strategy advice, and you get an hour for free. So again, that's only if you come to 4 sessions and present that lightning talk at session 5. You'll also be named in Women Ventures marketing and communications in our quarterly newsletter that we send out. We shout out all of our grads. So just a cool way to get your name out there and have some eyes on your name and your business name. We also give you the opportunity to turn in a business plan. This isn't required because drafting a business plan in 5 weeks can be really overwhelming, but if you're moving through the content and filling out the gaps in your business plan as you go, you're more than welcome to turn that in before session 5, and you'll receive written feedback from one of our facilitators. We also do provide you with a business plan template that is on Talent LMS. So what you'll leave this class with is a network of peers in a similar stage of launching. So that's one of my favorite parts of facilitating these cohort style classes is you're with the same people every week, so you get to know each other really well. And then you have some great connections as you leave the class. You'll leave with that lightning talk on the status of marketing, finance, legal, operations, and next steps that you plan to take. This can be really useful if you're trying to access funding of any kind. And it's just nice to have in your back pocket as you get more comfortable talking about your business. You'll leave with a working business plan with feedback if you so choose. And then, like I mentioned, access to those 3 expert advising sessions. Super, super cool benefit of graduating. Any questions about the course structure or procedures or requirements before I get into some of the actual, like, what are we doing here stuff? Awesome. Love it. Okay, let's get into some foundations of business. So our first objective for this morning is understanding the basic concepts and terminology of business. Some of you might know this stuff. It might be new to some of you. It might be a refresher, but just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page as we use some terminology throughout the next 5 weeks. The first, we all know in some sense what is business, but the way that we'll be using it throughout this class is an organization engaged in economic activities with the goal of generating a profit. So again, we're focusing on for-profit businesses in this class, and that might take a few different forms. You might be an LLC, you might be an S Corp. We'll talk about that in session 4, but you're engaging in business in order to generate a profit. The purpose or goal of that business can vary, of course, depending on your idea, your industry, your values, what your mission and vision are, but you are generating a profit by providing some kind of good or some kind of service to your customers. A few more terms that you'll hear me use especially today, but throughout the entire cohort as well, is startup. So this is a newly established business designed to bring innovative, that's kind of wishy-washy, but some kind of product or service to the market. Startup is usually defined as a business in the first, like from launch up to like 2-ish years. It really depends on the industry and how quickly you can hit that break-even point and start really making a decent profit. Right now, it sounds like all of us are pre-launch, so not quite in that startup phase, but working towards it, right? And then a pitch is a brief presentation to stakeholders of some kind that outlines your business idea, its value proposition, and its potential for growth. That last part also really depends on who you're pitching to. If you're pitching to a potential customer, they don't really care about your potential for growth, but if you're pitching to an investor, they definitely do. We'll talk more about what pitches can look like and how they might change from audience to audience. So when we talk about a business, we're talking about these 4 key elements, these kind of pillars of what make a business. So the first is the products and the services that you offer. The second is your target market and your customers. The third is value proposition. That might be a new phrase to folks, so I will define it. And then the fourth is competitive advantage. Things can get kind of muddy between value proposition and competitive advantage, so I'll clarify the difference between those as well. But first up is products or services offered. So again, defining this in case you're not quite sure where you fall. A product is a tangible physical product that a business produces or sells. So I'm a bookseller, I sell books. It is something you can hold in your hand. That is a product. It's regardless of whether you're creating it yourself, if you're like an artisan or you're sourcing it from somewhere, you are selling a product, something that someone can hold, right? You might be a service-based business. So in that case, you would be selling something that is intangible. So if you are, for example, a massage therapist, you're providing a service. You can't hold a massage in your hand, but you're providing something of value to your customers. I also offer services in my business. We do book clubs. So this is a kind of important note. You can be both. If you sell books and you also sell tickets to book clubs, you can be both a product-based business and a service-based business. And then I know more and more folks are falling into that e-commerce world. I am also an e-commerce business because I sell online. Usually e-commerce is selling a product, but you might fall into an e-commerce service-based kind of world if you're selling, for example, like a digital download. That's where you might be an e-commerce and a service-based business. And it is really important to know where you fall because it helps you define and effectively communicate what you're offering to your customers. There are different ways to frame and market your goods depending on whether you're a product-based business or a service-based business, right? The next one of those 4 big pillars is your target market and your customers. So your target market is the broader audience that you're aiming to attract. So when you think about your marketing and who you're marketing to, it's your target market. It's people you think, based on your research, will be interested in whatever it is that you're selling. Your customers kind of fall within that circle of target market, but these are the folks that are actually making the purchases. So you're advertising to them because you think they'd be interested in your product. They fall within your target market, and they're the ones that actually come through your doors or to your website and buy the thing. Again, super important to know who your target market is because it will help you spend your time and whatever your marketing budget is wisely. There's always this fear in the early stages of like pre-launch and also startup when you feel like you don't want to ignore anybody by defining a target market. There's this fear that like, well, anyone can use my business. So like, I just want to market to everybody. It's not a successful strategy. It's kind of like, it doesn't make sense at first, but once you figure out like the businesses that do really well know their audience, they know where to market, they know how to market, and therefore their marketing strategy is more effective, right? Versus trying to create a marketing strategy that speaks to everybody who has different interests and values and goals. You're speaking to a select group of people and you know what they want and how they want to receive that information. So again, super important to know who your target market is. Also important to know who your customers are, right? This is more of a post-launch aspect, but building loyalty, having maybe programs in place that bring folks back in or show how much you value them as customers, using some kind of CRM or platform that allows you to track who your customers are and how often they're shopping with you, is super important. It can build trust and loyalty and brand recognition. We'll talk a little bit more about CRMs and point of sale systems that can do that kind of tracking in session 4. And then the third pillar is your value proposition. So you maybe have heard this term, maybe you haven't. Sometimes it goes by unique value proposition. Sometimes it goes by UVP if you're keeping it short and sweet. But this is the unique set of benefits or values that your business promises to deliver to its customers. So this is a foundational element in your marketing, on your website, in any kind of communication that you're conveying to the outside world. And it tells your customers how you're bringing value to their lives. It's usually a pretty succinct, like 1 or 2 sentence statement, and it's meant to be external facing. So it's not something that, it's not speaking to your strategy, which I'll talk more about on the next slide. It's talking about why you're doing it, not how you're doing it. I'll explain more what that means, but let me give an example of a unique value proposition. So I chose this example because it's one we all know, Airbnb. So their value proposition is Airbnb exists to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere, providing healthy travel that is local, authentic, diverse, inclusive, and sustainable. So again, this is something you might see on Airbnb's website, on any of their other outside marketing materials. They probably say it to their stakeholders at conferences and stuff. So again, external facing, right? What value are you bringing to your customers? And this will probably change over time. As customers change, as markets change, as your business changes, your company is going to evolve. But keep in mind that the through line is pretty much going to stay the same. Your values are pretty much going to stay the same. But the way that you frame it, the way that you do it might change over time. All right, so this is the 4th pillar, and I said this can get kind of muddy with the value proposition because it's also speaking to the value of your business, but this is something that you kind of just hold in your brain. It's speaking more to how you're doing the thing. So it's defined as this distinct attributes, strategies, or resources that enable you to outperform your competitors. So examples of this might be your physical location. If you're in an area where a need just isn't being met and your business provides that need where it hasn't been met before, that's a competitive advantage. The kind of technology you use, if you've created your own technology or you use a cutting edge technology that's allowing you to provide that value to your customers, that's a competitive advantage. Also policies, things like free delivery or a money back guarantee, these are also competitive advantage. They, again, are allowing you to provide that value to your customer, and it's kind of the how of doing that, right? So again, those are the 4 pillars of what makes up a business. Any questions about those? I know the lingo kind of all blurs together once you're talking about it for that long. Terry, I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
I do have a question.
Oh,
Well, my question is, like, I know several places that I use, businesses have like a reward system, like you enter your phone number and you build up so many points per purchase. Would that be considered a competitive advantage?
absolutely. Yeah. Anything that is allowing you to provide value to your customers. So yeah, if you're, like I mentioned kind of with the customer slide, knowing your customers and using things to keep them coming back in, keep them excited about your business, definitely a competitive advantage. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. All right. All right, we knocked off that first one. So second objective for this morning is recognizing the importance of a business plan, how it can guide your operations, and how you might use it to attract potential investors. So a business plan is a physical written document. It is not something that lives in your brain, that outlines a company's goals and how you plan to achieve them. And this really serves as a roadmap for where you want to go. Sometimes folks can be like, yeah, I have a business plan. And it's just like kind of how they want to run their business and it lives in their brain. But when we talk about a business plan, in reference to potentially accessing funding. This is a written document. So again, you do have a template we have created on Talent LMS. There's also a really cool, super fleshed out example in your workbook of what it might look like in action for one of our example businesses. And then I love a stat. So some cool stats about the effectiveness of business plans. Small business owners with a plan are twice as likely to grow, get investments, or secure loans than those without one, especially because you usually need a business plan to access that kind of funding. Women Venture and pretty much any lending provider requires a business plan, a comprehensive business plan. So that's why, but also the likelihood to grow because you have already determined where you want to go and how you want to get there, right? Makes sense. People with a plan have 129% increased likelihood of growing beyond the startup phase. So again, that startup phase is like the 2-ish year point. A lot of businesses close in that time frame. So seeing that you have almost 30% increased likelihood of going beyond that 2 years is incredible. And then entrepreneurs have a 260% increased likelihood of growing from idea to new business if they have a business plan. So again, moving from where you are now, where you have an idea, you're working towards launch, to actually opening your doors, incredibly more likely to get to that point if you've created a comprehensive business plan for yourself. And I recommend a business plan regardless of whether you're using it to seek funding or investments, just for your own reference, right? I refer to my business plan to see if I'm hitting certain goals that I had set for myself, to kind of just remind myself why I'm doing this, and also to fill in gaps, right? So if I'm noticing that something I had set in my business plan isn't working, I can always revisit it, figure out why it's not working, and pivot. And I've set a new strategy for myself that I can again revisit. So when we talk about a business plan, these are some of the components that you'll find in a well-structured business plan. The first is a company description. These are also all defined in that glossary at the back of your workbook. A company description is a broad overview of what you're providing. The unique value proposition usually falls under that company description header. And again, it's defining the value that you bring to your customers. Target market and competitive landscape are huge in a business plan. It's important to understand who you're selling to, how you plan to sell to them. And any realistic business plan needs to cover the competitive landscape. It's unrealistic to say you don't have competition. A lender will see that and assume that you haven't done your research. So any well-structured, comprehensive business plan will talk about the competitive landscape, talk about how you stack up against the competition, and how you're filling gaps in the market. You'll usually cover your marketing strategy in a business plan as well. So talking about potential partnerships, channels that you plan to use, and discussing the strategy behind it based on research you've done on your target market. It'll discuss operations, which we'll go over in session 4. So how are you going to get things done? What are policies and procedures going to look like both internally and externally in your business? Most well-structured business plans also include a timeline. So this can be a kind of, like I said, a roadmap of where you want to be and when you want to be there. So it might include some pre-launch phases, and it also probably includes post-launch phases, things like projections, sales goals, expansion goals, like Terry and Noah mentioned, wanting to open 3 stores. That's a really useful piece, again, even just for your own reference to revisit as you're working through the early stages of your business. It'll include your management team If it's just you, that's cool. You should still include that. And this is where you kind of brag about yourself, especially this part is really important if you are using it to access some kind of lending or investment. It's where you brag about yourself. You talk about why you're good at this thing, what your credentials are, what your partner or employee's credentials are. And for a lender or an investor, it's really speaking to why your business will be successful when it's being helmed by you and your partners, right? Ownership and structure usually kind of falls under that management team umbrella. This is where you talk about who owns the business, what percentage of the business you each own, if it's more than one person, and the legal structure. So whether you're an LLC, an S Corp, a B Corp. You might also talk about the benefits of the legal structure you've chosen if you're using this to access funding. You'll also include a lot of financial projections. We'll talk about finances in session 3, cost structure, revenue streams, gross margins, your break-even point, all very fun stuff that we'll talk about in session 3. And then funding. If you're using this for a funding request, you would include a section outlining how much you're requesting and what you'll use it for. All of these components are included in both that template and that example business plan in the workbook too. So I like to give us like 5 minutes to reflect on your business plan. Because this is all fresh in your brain right now, I want you to take, what I want to do actually is do like a little work time and a little break, since we're like halfway through. So until 10 o'clock, take some time, there's space in your workbook to just kind of brain dump on future work on your business plan. So this might be questions, ideas, resources you know that you want to use, just any kind of things that are floating around your brain after talking about this for like an hour, that you want to get out of your head and out on paper. So let's see where this is. There is space in your workbook, but you can also just do this on any piece of scrap paper. It's on page 9 if you'd like to work on it in your PDF or in your physical workbook. Any questions about this kind of brain dump activity? It's pretty loose. All right. Well, let's come back at 10. So work on this for a little bit, take a little bit of a breather. I'll keep my chat up, but I am going to go grab another coffee if you have questions during the next 7 minutes. But we'll see you at 10. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
back in a minute or so. All right. How did that activity go? Any questions, concerns, queries?
I just had a question about the template, the business plan template.
Yeah,
I looked in the Talent LMS, but I
you're
did
not seeing it?
not. No,
Let's dig into it. I think I have it up. Yeah. All right. Let me see. So are you on desktop or your phone?
desktop.
So I know you should see a little like files section. It might look like this. And you should see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files there. It's an Do you see that file section, Shalon?
I see files. Oh, it says you do not have any files.
Oh, I hate that. Okay, that's so weird. Let me just for now, I'll just download this and put it in the chat. But I will troubleshoot that after class because you should
Okay.
definitely be able to see that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that activity. It was kind of nice to, as we were learning through all of the definitions, just taking that time to like write our ideas like freshly
Yeah.
down before they flee.
Good. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. All right. I did drop that in the chat, but I will troubleshoot what is going on with that. All right. Cool. All right. So next we're going to talk about that value proposition. So the reason that we're pulling that out from all of these pieces that go into a business plan is because it is incredibly important, especially in this pre-launch phase when nobody knows you. So it's like, how are you going to get people interested in your business idea? And it's through that value proposition. So one of the ways that you can get people interested in your business and really highlight the value that you're bringing to your customers is through an elevator pitch. This maybe is a term that you've heard before, maybe you haven't, but it's a brief, persuasive, and well-crafted speech. So it is generally like crafted, like you have it in your back pocket ready to just like do the spiel. And it outlines the essential aspects of a business. And it's designed to be delivered in like 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So it's called an elevator pitch because ideally it's something that you can throw at somebody if you're stuck in the elevator with them on like the lobby to the 9th floor, you're good to go, right? You can catch their interest, tell them the important parts of your business, and you'll also leave them with something to consider. I'll talk more about what that might look like. But again, it just serves as a really concise, really engaging introduction that captures the attention of your audience and tells them what is unique and valuable about your business. You can use this in a lot of different settings, and it will change a little bit from setting to setting. So if you're at a networking event and you're interacting with like potential partners, it might look different than if you're meeting with investors, right? So I'll again talk a little bit about how that might change. But these are some of the elements of a compelling elevator pitch. So the first is your name and title. So briefly introduce yourself and whatever title you have given yourself. I am just the owner of my business. That's what feels good for me. But you might be the CEO or the president or a co-owner. Business name and description. So this is where you state the name of your business and you give like a 1-sentence description of what your business does or provides. And then you'll move into that value proposition. So this is where you explain the really unique value or benefit that your business offers to your target market. You can slide into the target market piece. This is one of the biggest pieces that's probably going to differ from audience to audience. If you're talking to investors, you're going to want to really clearly outline who your target market is. You might highlight some of their demographics. Whereas if you're talking to a potential customer, you might highlight your target market by saying, I'm thinking of a business that I had in my last cohort. She's creating like a sewing class and a shop in one. But it's like cool. It's for younger generations. She's trying to make it appealing to like millennial and Gen Z. So when she talks about her target market with customers, she's highlighting that our services are for millennials and Gen Z. We stock in style fabrics and trendy, like I can't remember what they're called, like outlines pieces that you can create in their classes. She's not going to outline like there are this many Gen Z and they're this gender and they make this much money to a potential customer. They don't really care about that, but they do want to know if they fall within that target market and how it benefits them, if that makes sense. And then the last piece, another piece that will change depending on the audience you're speaking to, is the call to action. So you always want to end an elevator pitch with a clear and compelling call to action that's tailored to the audience you're speaking to. So this can look like telling them to reach out via email if you're talking to a potential partner that you want to collaborate with. If you're talking to a potential customer, it might sound like follow us on Instagram at blah, blah, blah. If you're talking to an investor, it's probably a call to invest in your business at whatever level you've defined already. So again, those target market and call to action pieces of an elevator pitch are the two that are going to change from audience to audience. The first three are going to stay the same no matter who you're talking to.
Becky. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Give an example of that call to action sentence, just like a sentence.
I have an example right here, Terry. Great segue.
Oh, okay.
So this is my example for that. One of our example businesses, Home Wellness Provisions. So she says, "Hi, I'm Marissa Mendez, the CEO of Home Wellness Provisions. Home Wellness Provisions is an e-commerce store that specializes in providing a wide range of wellness and self-care products. We offer a curated selection of products for adults looking to enhance their overall well-being and create a more comfortable and balanced home environment. Our target market is working professionals in the US, ages 30 to 50, who value wellness and self-care, and you can support us by visiting our website." So that's her call to action. That's a pretty broad one. But because she is an e-commerce business and that's where she's making her money, it makes sense that that would be her call to action.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I'm just looking at time. We do have time. Okay. So there is that kind of like fill in the blank template following the example that I just went through in your workbook. And I want to take just a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes, for you to start filling in those blanks. Just like with the brain dump for the business plan, I like doing this when it's fresh in your brain and you have ideas that you don't want to fly away, like Shalon said. So take like 3 minutes, like 10, 12-ish. I'll give us like a 1-minute warning to start filling in those blanks while it's fresh in your mind. there's going to be pieces of this you don't know yet, right? And that is totally okay. Your target market, you probably don't know yet. You don't have a super succinct value proposition yet, I'm assuming. That's cool. But start filling in the pieces you do know, and maybe writing down the questions or research that you have to do to fill in the rest of the blanks. Again, we'll come back at 10:12-ish. I'll give us a 1-minute warning. Give us about another minute of work time. All right, if you want to wrap up your final thought there. As you're working on your pitch, I'm curious if folks know what they're going to call themselves, like founder, CEO, president. Does anyone know or have ideas?
Yeah, I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Because well, I was thinking, what is the difference between a founder and an owner? Because I kind of wanted to say that I'm both.
Yeah. Yes. That's a really common one, founder and owner. Founder just means you created the business, right? It's not always the case that someone founded the business and is still the primary owner of the business. But for you, that is true. So you can definitely say I'm founder owner. You might say it as like, I'll hear that a lot. Founder owner is like almost one word. Or you can say I'm the founder and owner of blank for sure. Any questions? I have just one more kind of like key takeaway slide, but any questions about that exercise? Just a few kind of like takeaways as we walk away from that activity. Remember to keep your pitch brief. You're trying to keep people engaged and excited. And when you're staying on your script. You want to make it, you know, sound as natural as possible, but you also don't want to be rambling, right? So finding that balance, and keeping it brief, keeping people excited. It should be compelling, like I said, and highlight those really important aspects of your business. Follow the template that we have or don't if it doesn't make sense for you. It should feel natural and it should make sense to whoever you're pitching it to. Like this next bullet says, you might need a few different pitches depending on the audience. And then this is really the most important one, is just let your personality shine. You are what makes your business unique. People will be excited if you're excited. That's just true. So don't feel like you have to follow that template exactly if it doesn't like vibe with you. And make sure to let your personality shine. Depending on the audience, you might also include like a little bit of the backstory of why you decided to create this business. That will make sense in some settings. It might not make sense in others, but authenticity is a huge like draw for small businesses, right? I do want to ask you over the next week before we meet to kind of flesh out your elevator pitch so that you can practice it at session 2. I'll have you in small groups so you can practice it with 2 or 3 other people. It sounds really scary, but it's such good practice to talk about your business and maybe get a little bit of feedback too. So that's a homework assignment I'm giving you, is to work on this, fill out the pieces that you can. There might still be some gaps, and we'll practice it at session 2. All right. 4th and final objective for this morning is understanding the role of business ethics and social responsibility in small business ownership. Like I said, we will talk about this for 15-ish minutes. You can get a 4-year degree in it, but we'll hit the important points. I'll give you some examples of what an ethical business looks like in action, and give you some tools for assessing, you know, what kind of values and ethics you want to bring to your business. So if you've taken a class with us before, you've seen these 4 pillars of business success: desirability, achievability, viability, ethicality. We've defined these as the 4 pieces of the puzzle of business success. You'll see the first 3 a lot. That's like pretty traditional business like theory. But we've included ethicality because as an organization, it's really important to us to help people build ethical, sustainable businesses, because ethical businesses are more sustainable. So really, when we're talking about ethicality, we're talking about if it's the right thing to do, if it is good, if you're putting good into the world, you're not hurting anyone or anything. So it refers to the principles and moral values that guide your conduct and decision-making as a business owner. And we're not just talking about the legal side of it, right? You should, of course, follow all of the legal requirements you need to for your business. We'll talk more about that in session 4 with Jen, our business lawyer. But we're also talking about what is morally right and socially responsible. So this might be in how you treat people, where you source materials if you're creating a product, how your business affects the environment. There are a number of ways this can kind of take shape in your business. And so when we think about ethical business values, we kind of boil it down to these 3, I love the word pillar, I guess, but these 3 important pieces of that puzzle. So the first is integrity. So being truthful and transparent in all of your dealings, providing accurate information, and honoring commitments. I have a video that I'm going to share, and he does this really well. It's just being honest with your customers about what they need, what they don't need, what they might benefit from, being really transparent in how you price things, why you price things a certain way, how you employ people, if that's something you plan to do down the road. The next is respect. So treating all stakeholders with respect, including employees, customers, suppliers, and the community. I think this kind of goes, I just think women are really good at this. I'm biased, but I do think women business owners, we see this. Again, there are so many studies that show that women business owners invest more in their employees, they give back to their community. But just keeping respect in mind in every aspect of your business. In this pre-launch phase, as you determine how you want to employ people, how you want to interact with your community, if you are going to give back to your community in some way, right? And then responsibility. So having some sense of responsibility for the business itself and for your broader community. Small business owners should take responsibility for the consequences of their actions and their decisions. This includes any kind of social and environmental impacts. Especially, I know a big one of our main client groups is like salon owners or hairstylists. And there's a lot to consider when you think about the environmental impact of like the chemicals that they use, the wastewater that's going into the sewer. This is going to be more relevant to certain businesses than others. But a way that it might touch like the retail businesses that are here, or even like salons where you're presumably like packing up things to be delivered, thinking about the kind of packaging you're using. How much waste are you creating? Are you getting rid of that waste responsibly? Again, just having a sense of responsibility for your community, for the broader community, like people at large, and then also the environmental impact, right? I do have a short video that I really like, how he shares how he brings ethics and morality, I guess, into his business and what that looks like in action. I'm going to play this for 1 second and just confirm you guys can hear it. Good.
Yeah, we've thought long and hard about what is the stance that the store takes in terms of all of the issues that come up in a small business with how you handle your community, how you handle your product, everything. So, the moral stance of the store, tying back to what I was talking about, competing with the online presence that's out there. What we offer is integrity. We're going to give you an honest opinion. I've talked people out of buying games because you really don't want that game. No. I can tell from what you're saying. You can get it if you want. I'm not going to stop you, but I really don't think you should get that one. I'm going to give them honest opinions. I've had people ask me before, well, why are you stocking it if you don't like it? Well, I stock it because some people absolutely want it. I stock it because it is right for some people. It's just not right for you. That's one level, that's one place where the moral stance comes across. It's about integrity. Another example of that is actually coming back to the pricing. We have a very thought out idea that we're going to give you an honest MSRP price. People jerk around those prices all the time. Online you'll find discounts. At some retailers, at some small businesses, you'll find people that are taking the stance that they want to do the deep discount model. I don't think that's a viable business model. So far, it seems to be working and we're being proved right. People have a certain loyalty to us. And it all has to do with transparency and honesty. That's what we're trying to come across with. When you make a choice to do that, if you're really thinking about it, making a conscientious choice to do that, it permeates everything you do. You're talking to your employees about it. Your employees know what you're going for. It affects the way you talk to people. It affects the way you handle every little interaction. So the integrity that I'm selling, I'm doing that because that is who I am. The store can reflect me. It can be my beast, my creation, total transparency, total integrity. You walk in here, you get what you get. And what you get is a reflection of who I am.
love him. I just think that's an incredible example of all of those three pillars we talked about: integrity, respect, responsibility. He so obviously has these touch every aspect of his business. And it's just something I always say is it's just easier to run an ethical business. If you don't, there's always this like fear that something might come out or you might say the wrong thing because you're not being completely transparent. So it really is just easier and it's just a more viable way to run a business, like he mentioned. If you are constantly kind of like on the offensive, you're not going to build customer loyalty. There's not going to be mutual respect between you and your customers. And I'm thinking especially like for retail businesses like Terry and Noah, the way I run my business too is just like him, where it's like people are gonna be asking you for recommendations, and you want to be honest and transparent with them. If something isn't for them and you let them take it home because you made a dishonest recommendation, that's gonna kind of blow back, right? So that's my take on running an ethical and moral business. There is another video I'm not going to play. Oh my gosh, play in class. But it is linked in that workbook in the PDF version. And it's just an example. She talks more about the environmental impact of her business, which I think will be relevant to a few of you, but not all of you. It's another just like 2 or 3 minute video if you're interested in watching that on your own later. So our final activity for the session, just another brain dump. I promise some of our activities are a little more guided. This one, since it is such those big topics, I'm just kind of giving you space to write down your thoughts. So we'll take another 2 or 3 minutes for you to write down what you want ethics and social responsibility to look like in your small business now that it's top of mind. Thinking back to those 3 kind of pillars, the video, and how you want to embody that in your work. So that might be policies, if you have employees down the road, how you'll hire and treat them in the workplace, if you plan to give back to your communities in some way. Just kind of brain dump again your thoughts, questions, research you want to do, etc. And I'll give us a couple minutes to do that. Give us 1 more minute to wrap up your thoughts. All right. Any questions about business ethics and social responsibility, or just ideas, input? All right.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So it says like, what customer policies will you have in place? What would be what's an example of a customer policy?
So one, because I'm in the retail space that I think of is like return and exchange policies, right? So for me, I sell used books. You can buy a book in a day and read it and then say, you know what, I want to return this. For me, what makes sense for my business is to make it really clear that I have a no return or exchange policy. So that comes back to that transparency piece. I make it clear at every step of the way that I don't accept returns or exchanges, but I do also say on my website in multiple places, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out because your satisfaction is important to us. So that's where that like mutual respect, transparency, and integrity come into play. That's just an example in my business. Yeah. I can think of some other examples offline if you need anything else, but you're gonna noodle on that for a long time. All of you are. It looks different in every business, and every industry has its own kind of like standards of how you interact with customers, how you interact with the world. So it's going to be a mix of personal reflection on your own personal values and morals. And you also might want to do some research on the norms and practices in your industry. All right. I have just a little kind of section on final to-dos and wrap up. We kind of zoomed through because, like I said, we usually have like 20 people in a class and introductions take like 20 minutes. So I hope it's okay. We're wrapping up a little early today, but I do just have a few final things for you. The first is just letting you know that way at the back of your workbook, literally on the last 3 pages, are one template and 3 copies of the same template for action planning. So action planning is giving you the opportunity to identify steps that you want to take and giving you space to identify how you want to take those steps. I can actually just pull this up and show you what it looks like. Scrolling all the way down. So this is what it looks like, again, on those last couple pages of your workbook. This is just a guided way to basically make a to-do list for yourself. But it's following that kind of like SMART goal where you're setting goals that are, what is that? Manageable. I can't remember all of them, but you're checking off these boxes. So you're setting your goal, you're identifying how you want to start this process and what actions you need to take, potentially identifying any resources that you want to use to accomplish that goal, setting a deadline for yourself, and making progress notes as you go if it's a longer process, and then making notes of any outcomes. What did I learn? How will this help me, or how did this help me improve my business concept, and how do I plan to use this information? It's just a little more effective and guided than just writing down all the things that you have to do, right? Always love to set a deadline too, just to keep yourself accountable. So if you want to use these, you absolutely can. If you have a system that works better for you, that's cool too, but it's there for you to use. So after every session, you can take a minute or two to write down 1 to 3 action steps that you want to create for yourself based on what you learned during the session. And then just kind of a sneak peek into the rest of this cohort. You will be divided into a like designated small group. So there are so few of us, so it'll probably be 2 groups of like 3 or 4. I will assign you based on kind of like the industry that you're in, what I've learned about you throughout this first session, where you are in the business journey, and tried to match you with folks that I think you'll learn the most from. We have these small groups to help you build social connections, ensure that you have support from your peers. You can build some really deep connections in these groups. I have groups from a year ago that still get coffee once a month. So it is really meaningful and useful. And you'll have check-ins with your small group at the beginning and the end of every single session. We won't do it today. Like I said, I just met you. So I'm going to make these groups over the next week, and you will meet with your group for the first time at the top of session 2, where you'll also share your elevator pitch, like we mentioned. Again, this isn't for everybody. We've had great success. We've gotten amazing feedback, but if you have any questions or concerns about the small groups, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I again, want you to learn in the way that works best for you. I am curious, Terry and Noah, if you'd prefer to be in the same group or separate groups.
The same one, please.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, just the last piece of homework, I hate that word, outside of classwork, is to refine your elevator pitch in order to share with your small group at next session. Again, you're going to have gaps. You're not going to have answers to every single piece of that puzzle, but do your best. And it's really about practice, not perfection at this point, at every point. And then just a glimpse into session 2, we'll be talking about market research and analysis. So you'll learn how to conduct market research, to identify target markets, customer needs, and competition, understand how market analysis can help you develop products and services and guide your business strategy. And also my favorite piece is building a brand, why it's important, and how to start thinking about what you want your brand to communicate. Any questions before we all log off for the morning? Cool. Well, I will hang out as you all trickle out of our online space. But it was just a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm so excited to see how your business ideas develop over the next couple weeks. I think you're all going to be kind of blown away by the progress and work that you make over the next 5 weeks. So I'm excited to be on that journey with you. But always reach out if you have questions between classes, and we'll see you in a week.
Hi,
Thanks,
Becky.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one question. It doesn't pertain to the whole group, but the attorney we had talked about in the last session that we did together, is that the attorney that will be joining us over
Yep.
this session? Okay,
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're logging off. Have a
Cool.
great.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Becky. Have
We'll
a
see ya.
week.
Bye.
Thanks, Noah.